Welcome into Ravens Rundown. I am Tom Downey, and unfortunately, folks, I have some bad news for you guys as the Ravens have suffered more injuries, including yet another running back, Gus Edwards. The fear here for the Baltimore Ravens after he suffered a knee injury at today's practice is that it is a torn ACL for the set to be starting running back for the Ravens, as Baltimore in the past couple of days and weeks have gone through three different running backs who were going to make the 53-man roster be injured. Edwards is the latest one. Unfortunately for Baltimore, it doesn't end there. Marcus Peters has also suffered a knee injury, with the Ravens here fearing it is a torn ACL for Peters as well. They suspended practice after those injuries because reportedly they occurred on back-to-back plays at practice. Edwards and Peters going down and potentially now being out for the entire season for Baltimore. Now, the Ravens are already starting to make some moves here. Namely, they've addressed some practice squad depth at running back. They are bringing in Devonta Freeman to the practice squad. Now, the plan here, at some point at least, is for Freeman to be promoted to the 53-man roster. Now, Freeman will join Le'Veon Bell on the team's practice squad. The exact timing as to when those guys get called up to the game day roster is still up in the air, and heck, you could even see potentially one of these guys get the Monday Night Football call. Remember, practice squad players can be promoted to the game day roster twice each this season. You might see some help there coming because, as we'll get into more in depth momentarily, the Ravens are quite thin now at the running back position. Now, we're going to spend some more time on both of these injuries and what it means for the Ravens going forward, but gut reaction right now for me in the comments section. Who's the bigger loss? Type E for Gus Edwards or type P for Marcus Peters? Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. Now, fantasy owners everywhere right now are indeed in shambles over the Gus Edwards injury. Edwards was primed to be the lead back for Baltimore entering Week 1 after an injury to J.K. Dobbins. Now, the news of the exact injury details is not finalized. They have to go through the MRI. That might not come out for maybe even a full day potentially. But the Ravens' fear is a torn ACL for Edwards. That would end his season. Edwards last year on 144 carries was averaging over 5 yards per tote. He had 6 touchdowns, and those numbers were primed to go up this season simply because, well, they didn't really have a whole lot else at the position. This is now, as I mentioned, the third Ravens running back who has gone down since the middle of the preseason with a potentially season-ending injury. J.K. Dobbins already blew out his knee. Justice Hill suffered a torn Achilles. That's why the Ravens had brought in a Lev Bell to the practice squad. Now they lose their other starter alongside J.K. Dobbins in Gus Edwards. An absolutely brutal development for the Baltimore Ravens, who they love to run the football. They're still going to use Lamar Jackson in that area. But that running back room, the assumed top 3 players to begin this season, assuming Edwards does have a torn ACL, they're all out. That level of injury bad luck is very rare in the NFL. Now, the injuries continue to mount for Baltimore. LJ Fort is injured. Rashad Bateman starting the year on IR. So what is your panic level right now over the Ravens' injuries? Get your votes in for me in the comments section. It's a safe space to melt down if you need to. So use a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being you're convinced it's all made up, there are no injuries. Maybe you're a bit crazy. 10 being, hey, you are in full-fledged panic mode. You are melting down. You think the season is already over. Get your votes in for me in the comments section. So with Edwards now at least out, we assume, for most of the season, if not all of it, this is where things stand in the running back room for the Baltimore Ravens. Tyson Williams is suddenly the starter. A drastic rise for him. Trent Cannon had been brought onto the team mostly to serve as the RB3, to be the special teams core piece. It was supposed to be Edwards and Williams, and then Lev Bell gets the call up to active duty at some point. Well, that acceleration plan for both Lev Bell and potentially Devonta Freeman is now up in the air. Because even though the Ravens internally like Tyson Williams, there's some concern there because he's never played a real football game. He was not on the active roster in terms of getting actual snaps in 2020, and now he's the assumed starter. So if you got him in fantasy, congrats. But for the Ravens, running back is now a question mark after I thought for sure it was going to be a breakout year for J.K. Dobbins and then Gus Edwards, and now those two plus Justice Hill might be done for the season. Now, if you guys want more Ravens news, maybe they add some more backs or add a corner to help replace Marcus Peters, hit that big red button and subscribe. Our goal here at Chat Sports is to keep you guys updated with what's going on around the Baltimore Ravens. So if you want those consistent updates, hit that big red button and subscribe today. Marcus Peters, that's the other injury here. Again, assumed it's a torn ACL. That is the fear right now. It's a significant loss for the Ravens. Now, relative to where they were at the running back position, I think the Ravens are a little bit more prepared to replace Peters, even if they did trade away Shaun Wade. Had the Peters injury happened earlier, that trade would not have happened, I don't think. Peters is this team's number 2 corner, and he is that kind of high-risk, high-reward type of impact guy. He did allow a 64% completion rate in 2020. 627 yards, not ideal. 3 touchdowns isn't great, but 4 interceptions, 9 pass breakups. Making plays on the football in that fashion, balance it out. So there always has been some risk-reward inconsistency with Peters, but when you pair him with Marlon Humphrey, you have one of the best 1-2 punches in the NFL at corner. Jimmy Smith, more on him momentarily, is likely the next man up at corner. Now the Ravens are hoping the previous injury bug player of Tavon Young stays healthy. Anthony Averett now likely is the top backup. Chris Westry, the former Kentucky guy that's a big body, 6'4", runs really fast, seemed to have a bit of a breakout training camp, made the roster, helped push Shaun Wade off the 53 and into the waiting arms of the New England Patriots. That's the depth now. So with Jimmy Smith, you have a veteran who is not the same player he was in his absolute prime, but between Marlon Humphrey and a healthy Young, the Ravens should be okay at the position, barring more injuries. The Ravens, knock on wood, surely can't have any more injuries coming their way, right? With that in mind, before we go, a actually kind of serious question. Are the Ravens cursed now? Because this is reminding me of the 49ers or the Cowboys last year, just decimated by injuries already. So do you believe the Ravens are cursed? Get your votes in for me. Y for yes or N for no.